Hello and welcome to ZalthoLIVE, the podcast featuring Zen Buddhist Monk Claude AnShin Thomas, who will share with you his life experiences that includes not only military combat, personal violence, and addiction, but also healing, transformation, and the ongoing joy of everyday life. Please enjoy listening.
Mentioned earlier, but we were giving instructions on deep listening, mindful speech. You said, and I might have this off, but something about to bear witness, but also to get in giving witness.
To bear witness and also yes.
Can you share more about what you mean by that?
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever said that. It just sort of popped out of my mouth. So in the moment of saying that, I had the impression, or I had the sense that bearing witness is just to be present, to observe what's happening, what's being said, what's happening, what's being said, because what's being said is not only verbal. I can sit in the middle of the yard and listen and hear what's being said, because the environment is constantly talking to me if I'm willing to listen to it. A majority of our communication is nonverbal. Now, to give witness is, in a moment, it was to encourage people to be to be revealing of themselves, to give witness. To not skate around on the surface of things, but really be willing to sort of, as best as we're able, to really explore the depths of our conditioning in a verbal way. Question. Leila, you had a question.
How do I recognize that something I put in front of practice is an excuse?
What's that?
How do I recognize that something that I put in front of practice is an excuse?
Well, anything you put in front of practice is an excuse. That's a simple position. If sitting. If I'm beginning my day with sitting, ending my day with sitting, then everything I do is practice. Everything. Unless it's not. And the world around me tells us if I'm just sort of going through life in a habitual way, or if I am indeed engaged, if I'm experiencing the reality that daily life and practice are not two things. The separation I start to create is in my mind. Question. Getzigan.
You sometimes state that it's very important to live the practice out loud.
Yes.
Could you talk about this a little bit more?
Well, one of the ways, yes. So it is about sitting in the morning, sitting in the evening. When I'm with a group of people, there's a group of people who don't know this tradition or aren't involved in this tradition in any way, and they invite me for a meal, and before I eat, I say the meal gata to myself. I say it to myself, unless I'm asked to say it out loud. I say the meal gata to myself. I bow before I eat, and when I eat, I practice eating meditation. And it doesn't matter whether I'm in someone's house or I'm in a restaurant. It doesn't matter where I'm at. If I'm on an airplane, I'm not on many of those anymore, but if I were. Also, like in my case, I wear robes 90% of the time. When I'm traveling, like around here when I'm working and things, I don't wear robes because it's the kind of work that I do. There's too much stuff. It'd be dangerous. But this morning I had to go and get some food to feed the hungry ghosts, and I go in robes. I wear robes quite a bit. Even here, I wear robes quite a bit. To not be shy. I mean, to be shy, but really to be willing to talk less, to be more slow, to be more deliberate in my actions. Those sorts of things, to live it out loud. Question? Kyoto.
Did you use it again, the tool with which you wounded your finger, and how you felt if you did it?
So.
Did you use the tool again that hurt your finger? And if you did, how did it feel?
Oh yeah, I've used it several times. Yes, and I think that actually the first time I used the tool after I injured my hand with it, Miyoko was with me. I finished cutting the piece of wood that I was cutting when I injured my hand. And the same thing happened. The wood bound up in the saw and it kicked up. But I was prepared. I had the saw set up correctly, and I had a saw set up differently. You know, part of the injury was because I was the saw could have been set up differently, but I was working on with this saw with another person, and the wood he was working on was thicker than the wood I was working on, and his blade wasn't so sharp. I mean, what I did, I've done 1,000 times without any problems. This time it caught up with me. I hadn't done things correctly. Technically, I hadn't done them correctly. So, but yeah, I think I was kind of like, yeah, there was some apprehension. Do I really need to do this? Do I want to use this tool? I find myself in some of the work, I just completed a big piece of work on one of the houses. I had to open up the whole front of the house and put a special kind of attach a special kind of metal clip that supports the house, the roof, when from wind lift. We call them hurricane clips, and I can see with some of the work that I do how I'm a little tentative. You know, I mean, I still do everything, but initially when I go to put my hand into something that's a little tight, I'm a little tentative today, a little more tentative. But I do the things anyway. So I would say, yeah, I was a little anxious, I was a little nervous, and I continue to use the tool. And the more I use it, the tool's not the problem. You know, I just need to be really alert, pay attention, not get too overconfident. Yeah. Question. Myo Zen Nengenrai.
How are you dealing with memories that touch your sadness?
Well, when I'm sad, I'm sad, and when I'm not, I'm not. There's nothing to deal with it. It's just to have the feelings. To neither reject them nor allow them to define me. You know, it's like yes, it's just like that. It's not a complicated process. When I'm sad, I'm sad. I make an effort not to stay trapped in that sadness, but to really be willing to experience it as it comes into existence and allow it to pass away when it does. I think I experience a lot of people think in a particular circumstance they need to behave or demonstrate a particular kind of affect, some kind of feeling. They need, and it's just not so. You know, that's all that social conditioning, and I hope to be. I work hard to become more aware of that social conditioning so that I'm not trapped in the cycle of it. Yeah. Genrai.
Earlier you talked about the interconnected reality of all that is.
Yes.
Do you have examples how this appears in your life or how you perceive it?
No, it's a challenging thing to articulate. I just have a keen sense of awareness. Sometimes it's more profound, or sometimes it's sharper than others. But for example, when I put on the robe, when I put on my kesa, and it's on my head, I'm reciting the verse, "Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata teaching, saving all sentient beings." And sometimes I experience the robe, the black robe, as space itself, the entirety of space itself, which is beyond comprehension. And I'm not afraid to imagine. I'm not afraid to imagine the entirety of space. Let's say I'm not afraid to touch the infinite, because existence in its purest sense is infinite. Yet my piece of that existence will be as long as it is. I know that I am a part. I just know that I'm just a part, a piece of a much larger interconnected reality that we call space and time. Yeah. You know, there's planets and galaxies, and I'm not separate from any of that. You know, because this body is also it's a replication of all of that. I was having a conversation. You know, we have the systems within our body. They know how to function really without us thinking about it. They just know how to function. It's like the seasons come and go, the tides come and go, and yet and the same is true for the functions in this body. So this body is not separate from the various functions in the world. I'm an interconnected part of all of that. As I am, I impact the world I'm a part of, and the world that I'm a part of also impacts me. I can feel that dynamic. You know, I don't feel myself separate or apart from. The only thing I feel myself separate and apart from time to time are other people. Really, I sometimes I feel very separate and apart from other people, and largely because I experience the world differently. And because of it's coming, I saw it. I remember there are oftentimes, even today, there are times when I wish that I could take people and somehow put them into my skin, or I could somehow project myself into their skin so that they could feel what I feel, they could see what I see. I can't do that. Well, I haven't figured out how to do it yet. And it's not something I'm really attempting to do. No, mind meld, no. It's and because of that, I mean, I just feel sometimes quite separate and apart from my own species. Although I know I'm not, in a very base level. I watch how people use their mind, use their intellect, their ideas of things to shape the world in a way that it is not. But to them, it's absolutely like that. And so I feel a bit, I feel estranged or separated from people in those moments. Although I know I'm connected to them, but at that level, I feel quite estranged and separated from them. And I know there's nothing I can do, not a single thing I can do to penetrate that the themis that they've created, that bubble they've created around them, so that their life somehow makes sense to them. My life doesn't have to make any sense. Its existence is sense in itself. Question? Yes, and Natalie. Natalie, can you hear this? Can you hear that? Okay, I won't do that then.
Lately, I sometimes find it difficult to get my priorities right. Would you share your view on decisions on priority with me?
No, there's no trick to this. It's simply, I might start out the day with a whole list of priorities. And then the day develops as it develops. And some of those priorities get addressed, some of them don't. But I know there's always, well, I shouldn't say there's always another day, but I just accept life like that. You know, but I also am cautious to evaluate whether the priorities I have established are sensible. You know, whether they make sense within the context of things. And actually, I think, for example, with this work that I just did, I had some help in doing it, and the person says, "Okay, so what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, we'll set up. We set up all the tools and all of the necessary supports to make the work as easy as possible." And I said, "Then we're going to open up the roof. Once we open up the roof, actually it's the underneath of the roof. Once we open that up, then we'll know what we need to do. Until then, can't know. So I'm not going to go thinking beyond that. Set up the equipment, open up the underneath of the roof, the piece that hangs over like this, the underneath of that between the house and the edge of the roof. We open that up, and then we see. And pretty much my life is like that. There are things I need to get done, and I know that I will get them done. I just know I will, because I'm committed to. But if I say to myself, I have to do this 10 things today, then something that I need to do is not going to get done. You know, and then I'm not going to feel good about it. So I know I have things that need to get done, and for example, if I'm in the middle of doing something, and Kenshin would just say, "Hey, look, I really need your help with this. Can you help me?" I'll put that aside and go help him. You know, so sometimes my priorities shift, and I'm okay with that. Today I'm okay with it.
Thank you for listening to this episode on ZalthoLIVE. If you would like additional information, please look at the show notes or visit zaltho.org. That's ZALTHO.org. Our work is made possible solely through donations, so please consider making a tax-deductible gift on our website. We wish you well and thank you.